Alright, up under the quizzes section for this course, there's 3 new assignments. Number conversion subnetting, which is IPv4, and IPv6. Okay? I'd like y'all to do them all. They are not timed, even though they're under quizzes. So you can literally open them up. Just make sure you save your work after each question. And whenever you're done with all of it, just hit submit. It'll tell you you're over time. Don't worry about it. There's no time limit. Okay? And I'll show you what they are here. Actually, I'll show you right now what they are. For instance, under... it's not the way I want to do it. Let's go to preview. Under subnetting... I just asked you some questions. Answer them and hit save. Okay? And I'm going to show you where some recordings are on this. But there's 28 questions for the subnetting quiz. There's a preview. Okay, and the IPv6 quiz, there's not quite as many. Again, just save after every question. There's only 6 questions on this one. Okay. And then the number conversion quiz. This all pertains to IP addressing and stuff. I give you a number, and I want you to convert it to binary, hex, and octal, so on and so forth. Down here I give you a hex number, convert it to binary, decimal, and octal. So you're doing each one 3 different ways. Okay. Down here I give you this number, you convert it to those, and down to the end we should have binary. There's binary. Give you binary, convert it to decimal, octal, and hex. I'm going to walk you through how to do all this. Okay, so don't freak out. But they're all under quizzes, and I'm giving you... They're not due next week, they're due the following week. Because next week's fall break. You all know that, don't you? Okay. So, October 23rd is when they're due. Okay? Alright. Let me put in his grade real quick. Okay, I'm going to start off with IPv4. These are actually slides, at least one of them is from a different book. So I chopped out part of it, so we're only going to cover a portion of it. But you'll get something out of it, I'm sure. Alright, this is out of a different book. It's a networking chapter. If you were to go up on YouTube, if you have any questions about subnetting, if you go on YouTube, it should be on there. And if you search for, I think it's 2403. No. 2403. No. I'll find the link to the videos and put them up there. I don't remember the exact title is. I got them downstairs. But I'll put the other videos up there. But, because I actually covered this entire section multiple times in multiple classes. So, but I'll put it up there. But I'm assuming we all had intro to networks at one point or another. Hopefully. Did you all do subnetting in your intro to networks? Okay. It's kind of why we're doing it now. It turns out some instructors don't cover subnetting. Some don't cover it very well. Some do. So we're going to cover it. Okay. Basically, an IPv4 address is based on the scheme of 32-bit addresses. Okay. We ran out years ago. Well, say about 2 years ago, we actually ran out of addresses. So there are no more. You can never create any more IPv4 addresses. So does anyone have a clue how the heck we're still using them? Well, we're going to use IPv6, but has it really been implemented at a large scale yet? No, it hasn't. What's happening is we can still use the IPv4 internally, and it's like when I ran my ISP, I bought my address from Cox. Cox already owns a bunch. Just because there's no more IPv4 addresses doesn't mean Cox doesn't have any. Just means they can't get any more. Okay? But IPv4 is a 32-bit addresses, which we'll see examples of, and it's all written in binary. Okay? Do y'all know what binary is? Hopefully. Okay. Actually, I probably should have covered that one first. But I have a presentation on exactly how to convert all this stuff. But this is a representation of an IP address in decimal and binary. See, 192.168.115.10 converts to that address in binary. Okay, and there's 10 dot whatever. Does anyone know anything about that 192 address? Is there anything special about that? It's a private address. Very good. Which means it will not function on the internet. So 192.168 will not function on the internet. 10 will not function on the internet. 172.16 will not function on the internet. 127 will not function on the internet. Those are all considered private addresses. Okay? That being said, in my house, I bought, I'm going to make this, so people watching the video can see this real quick here. Let's go up to 20. Okay, in my house, my internal addresses, since I was an ISP, I had private, I had public addressable addresses. 610.210.163. Oh man, it was like 130, I think it was 130. Okay, that was one of my addresses. That was one that was internal to my network that the outside world could get to. Since I hosted websites, I hosted all that stuff. You could type in that address and connect to my house. Okay, so that was internal to my house. External to my house, connecting to the internet, was 5.3. Okay, so my publicly addressable numbers were 66.210.163.130 and so on. Okay, but that was publicly addressable. So if you type that in, that goes to Ken Dewey's machines. But my connection to the outside world, you know how you all have a connection to Cox or whoever? I had a connection to Cox. My external address was 192.168. How could that be true? Anyone know? Didn't we just say 192.168 is a private address? Does not function on the internet. Then how could I use that address as an external address to my network? In other words, it was out there. It was on the internet. Well, when I first started doing this ISP around the year 2000, when they gave me these addresses, I'm like, no, that can't work. So that's a private address. It's not going to work. And it was funny because a lot of the people that come install your network, they really don't understand how it works. They just know what to put in there. They're like, it works, just put it in. Like, it can't work. Oh, it does, just put it in. They couldn't explain it to me. Well, the reason it worked was, even though it was external to me, it was still internal to Cox's network. So it was still a private address inside of Cox. So what happens was when you typed in my addresses somewhere from your house, it resolved to Cox, and then Cox said, send it over to Ken Dewey, but that internal network was actually a 192 address. It was internal to them, so it worked perfectly. It's like internal in this lab or 1010 dot whatever. Doesn't mean we can't get on the internet, it just means internally we're using a private address. So it was kind of weird when they gave that to me. And, you know, Cox, kind of funny, they offered me a free router. If you ever bought a Cox router, I'm not talking Linksys, I'm talking a business grade router. I'm like, wow, free router, that's pretty awesome. There's some money. So they brought it out there, they connected me all up day one. I'm like, great, now I want to put in my ACL. Anyone heard of an ACL? It's an access control list. It's like a firewall. So, all right, I need to access so I can put in the ACL. Oh, this router doesn't support it, sorry. That's why it's free. So I ended up going out and buying my own router so I could do an access control list. So it kind of sucked. But long and short of it, even though 192.168 is a private address, it can still function. Okay?
Was that making Cox almost like your proxy?
Exactly. Because what my router did was I told my router to send to their router, which then send out. Because everybody connects to everybody. You know, at your house, your laptop connects to your router. Your router connects to your modem. Your modem connects to Cox's system. So everybody's internal to somebody. So yeah, they were my proxy basically. So all right. Let's talk a little more. Well, I don't want to get into binary in depth here. We're going to do that on the other slide. But, well, okay, I'm going to do it here. Fine. I couldn't remember exactly where it was covered. And y'all know what decimal is? I'm assuming we all know what decimal is. Hopefully you've heard of it before. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then what happens? Well, actually, we need 0 at the beginning, don't we? Put 0 up here. 0. Okay? What happens after 9? 0 and a 1. So basically, what happens is we reached our maximum number. We've reached the 9. We can't go any higher than 9. So we change the 9 to a 0. We increment the next number. Okay? So when we keep going all the way to 19, again, we're at 9 again. Can't go any higher than 9. So we change the 9 to a 0 and increment the next number. So we get 20. We keep going until we get up to 99. We can't go any higher than 99. So we increment the next number, change them both to zeros. That's how we count in decimal. Hopefully you all know that. We've been doing it since you were children, I hope. The problem is it's difficult. We don't think it's difficult. Has anyone ever been to Europe? One person. How long were you there?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, you know when you first get there, everything's in kilometers and liters? First thing I went to Europe, I'm like, kilometers? I knew what they were, but... And liters? I mean, you can't do gallons. I mean, we had to buy gas coupons. And then when you go to the gas station, you have to give them the coupons for a certain amount of gas. And it wasn't like, see, if you just paid at the pump, the regular thing, you had to pay the local economy price. But you could buy the coupons on base and get it for like half price or a discount, whatever it was. So you had to real quickly figure out, okay, my car's got a half a tank. That means I can hold 20 liters. So you have to be able to figure out liters and gallons and all that pretty quickly. Well, you learn fast. Probably within a week. I was totally fluent in liters and kilometers and all that. Even when I went to Spain 2 years ago with my wife, she had never been to Spain before, never spoke Spanish or anything. We went there. Within about 2 days, she was ordering a beer. She was saying thank you. It's not that difficult. But the point is, we lived with this our whole life. So we're very efficient at it. But it's difficult. Okay? Now, binary starts with 0, just like decimal. Goes to 1. Goes to 1. We're at our maximum number. What do? Change it to a 0 and increment the next number. The same thing we did in decimal. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, so what do? Now we're both at the maximum number. So what do? Just like we did in decimal. So on and so forth. It's not difficult. It's just that we're not used to doing it. Okay? This is 1. That's 1. That's 2. 3. Make sure I didn't mess up. 0, 1. Yeah. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. I'm writing the decimal numbers off to the side. But it's not hard to do. It's just the fact that we don't use it. Okay? You ever wonder... Okay, we all speak English to some extent. Some better than others. But did you ever wonder how a little baby can speak Chinese? A year or 2-year-old baby knows Chinese. I don't know Chinese. How did that baby learn Chinese? They were immersed in it. That's all they did. Okay? Same way we learned mama, dada, pizza, whatever. It's because we were immersed in the language. If you were immersed in binary, that's all you would know, and you'd be fine with it. So it's just that we don't use it. So many people, no one's in computer security, are there? You are? Were you in there the other time when I was talking about this? Okay. Well, I'll tell you. My stepson, that's right, you were in there. My stepson is autistic, I think. I think he's autistic. Knows math really well. I explained binary to him in like 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. And he knows it perfectly. Then I explained him what ASCII is, how binary converts to ASCII. And he literally now writes notes on the board at home in binary. Just on top of his head, he'll go over there and and I have to say, okay, now what that number converts to this decimal, then this decimal converts to this ASCII, He's like, oh, it says hi. And I'm like, and it's funny because he went to school to his math teacher and was telling the math teacher all about binary. Well, first, actually, even before that, he made a mistake. He tried to explain it to the bus driver. You know how that went. So my stepson's really good in math, so he understands it instantly. So he's like, oh, going on. And the bus driver's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I have no clue. No earthly idea. He went to math class and did the same thing. Teacher's like, I've heard of it. But that's about as far as it went. He got upset because he was trying to explain to all his friends at recess. They couldn't understand it. I'm like, not everybody's going to get this as quick as you are. But then I explained hexadecimal to him, and, it's when we look at that presentation in a minute, you'll see it's not difficult. It's just that we don't use it. So what would the next binary number be? It'd be 1 first. Okay, which would be 9. Y'all see how we did that? It's not difficult at all. So, another way to remember binary is like this. Okay? 2 to the 0 power is 1. Okay? 2 to the 1 is 2. 2 to the 2 is 4. 2 to the 3 is 8. Y'all know what exponents are, don't you? Exponents. So 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2 times 2. Okay. So if I was to take this number, let's pick one. Let's see. What is that number in decimal? Well, an easy way to do that is using this little chart here. See, I put 8 digits. Y'all see that? And there's 8 on the board. You see that? 8 on the chart. Okay. So if I was to put a 1 here, 2 to the 7th, and a 1 to the 6th, a 1 to the 5th, and 1 to the 4th, and all zeros on the rest, what's my answer? How would I do that? What? Someone said something.
128 plus 64.
Okay, does everybody see how he's getting that? So if I have a 1 at this position right here, means that so I need 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. Just happens to be 240. I worked with that one so long. That's why. That was actually my subnet. So that's why I know that one so well. What if I gave you 11000000? 64 plus 128. Exactly. 192. Okay. What if I gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 0? What's that? It's 2. So it's not hard to go from binary to decimal. Do y'all see what we're doing? So what if I change this to a 0 and let's put a 1, 1 right there? 4 plus 8 is 12. Easy enough to do? Well, let's go the other way. I want 202. What's 202 in binary? How many 128s fit in 202? 1. Okay, so what's 202 minus 128? So, I don't know, I don't have my calculator out. That's like high-level math there. Hold on, I'm going to make sure you get the right number. Okay, 202, so minus 128 gives us 97, okay? So if we did, trying to get this all so we can see it. 202 minus 128 equals 97. Everybody follow me so far? Because I told you the number 202 to begin with, and we have 1/128. So we have 97 left over. Can we fit a 64 in there? Can we fit a 64 in there? Minus 64, end up with 33. So it's 97 minus 64 equals 96. Did I get 90? Did I write that wrong? 202 minus 128. 202. Calculator's too big. What am I doing? It's not even 96. Hold on. 202 minus 128. Where did I get 96 from? Whew. That's crazy. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to bring up the... Okay. 202 minus 128. 74. Okay. Phew, that was close. Okay, so we have that one. Then obviously 64 fits into 74. And we get what? 10. Okay. So how many 32s fit into 10? How many 16s fit into 10? How many 8s? What's the remainder? Ever see that? It's not hard to do as long as you type the right damn number in the calculator. While we're here, I'm going to show you how to use the calculator.
Very important.
Yes. You need to go down to programmer mode. Because you can actually type in, see where it says decimal? 202, convert to binary. There you go, done. Okay. So say I did, 192. Binary, done. Hex, done. So on and so forth. Octal, done.
So that right there is pretty much assignment 1.
That's pretty much, well, it's actually assignment 3, the converting number basis one.
So when we're doing the quiz, we can just.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm showing you how to do it by hand, but in reality, you're going to use a calculator. Okay, but I will tell you, I do this stuff quite frequently, especially with changing all the vSphere networks and stuff. I still always like to verify it on paper. Because when I worked at ISP downtown, it was kind of funny. Because, well, actually, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Let's continue on. Because it does matter, but I got to get to them in the next couple slides. So kind of an idea how we did that, how to convert decimal to binary. Okay, so we're not going to do that. Subnetting. Subnetting is a process of breaking the network apart. Okay, so anyone ever classes at OU? You ever take classes at OU? You wear all their stuff. You pay Stoops his salary. Okay. Okay. Well, can you imagine at OU taking a class with 400 people? They do have classes that have hundreds and hundreds of people in there. How much one-on-one interaction do you think you get? 0. Now, I suck at names. But can you imagine if I had 400 students in the class? I would really suck at names. Here I know at least Cody, Melissa, Roger, Melvin, Scott sits here. Yeah, we're going to move on. But can you imagine with very large, and the problem is with very large networks, see, we got a switch right here, okay? Do you know how many computers can talk at one time on a network? Just one. One computer can talk at a time. That's it. So what happens is, now we have switches which make it better, okay? But when two people try to talk on the same segment at the same time, we have a collision. It's kind of like, two of you start to ask questions at the same time. You ever had that, okay, no, you speak. No, or you get to you're at a darn, the stoplight stop sign going across Adair Boulevard? The traffic coming across doesn't stop. People can't figure that out. It's like, go, dude, go. Sometimes you have that at intersections. You have problems. You have collisions kind of thing, okay? Subnetting takes that and breaks it into smaller pieces. Can you imagine at Rose State if we took all classes, put in one huge room, and lined the front wall with all the instructors, we all start teaching at the same time? That would kind of suck. But what we could do is one at a time. I could talk for a minute, next guy could talk for a minute, next guy could talk for a minute. But that would get very old, don't you think? Because you'd be having to listen to social science and humanities and history, and that kind of stuff. So what we do is you break the network into pieces, like a small classroom. So we can cover one thing in here, they can cover one thing over there, and we don't interfere. Okay, it's called creating multiple smaller networks. Okay, the subnet mask tells us how we're going to break it apart. You ever heard of a zip code before? I live at 73020. Does anyone know what that is? Choctaw. Here the school is 73110, Midwest City. By having different zip codes, when mail comes, the odds are there's another Adair Boulevard somewhere. Not Adair, Air Depot, I'm sorry. Air Depot. You don't got Air Depot right out here? The odds are somewhere in the United States there's another Air Depot. So what if we just said, 1900 Air Depot? Where would they deliver the mail to? I don't know. But by having a city-state zip code kind of thing, they can actually find out where we're at. Okay? That's what subnetting does. Okay? All right. There used to have what's called class-full IP addresses. We had A, B, and C. That was the initial plan. It failed miserably. Class A networks were for large networks. Class B networks were for medium size. Class C networks were for small. Okay? So Class A networks, there was only 127 worldwide. Of the entire world, there was only 127 Class A networks. We're talking large. Do you know Hertz is one of the very largest networks in the world? I would have never thought of that. But it is. Okay? Military, they're actually a Class B. They're medium size. Because each base has their own networking scheme. Now, Class Cs, those are kind of like ISPs and stuff. 200 and something hosts per network. Okay? Well, there's a problem with that. The odds are we have more than 127 large companies in the world. Because each one of those networks can have 16 million computers. Okay? Now, if you notice, Class A networks are 0.0.0.0 all the way up to 127.255.255.255. Those are the numbers. Does anyone know what their IP address is at home? No one knows? Let me see what mine is. I'm going to do NS lookup. Okay, my address at home, I use something called name server lookup. My address at home is 68.229.214.80 or 34. So which network am I in? Which type of network? It's the 68. 68 fits in with the Class A. So that means I have a very large network in my house. What do you think? Probably not. Now what about when I ran my ISP? Remember I showed you my number? 66210? Where does that number fall? Class A. So how the heck does Ken Dewey, running an ISP out of his house, have a Class A network that supports 16 million hosts? I didn't. But Cox owned one. Cox owned 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, I think all the way up to 69. Cox owns a large bunch. Then what Cox does is it breaks that apart. Okay? My subnet mask at my house told Cox basically what portion of that network was mine. Okay? And what a subnet mask is, this is like a zip code here. Okay? So 255.0.0.0 basically says the first number is the network, the rest are all the hosts. Okay? If you convert 255 to binary, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that is 255 in binary. It just is. You can look at a calculator. Let's make sure. Okay, let's go back to decimal. 255 should be all ones. Okay. So, can anyone guess what 0 is in binary? Okay, how about the second 0? However many. So basically, the ones identify the network, and the zeros identify the host. So if my number at my house is 68 dot something, whatever I pulled up here, 68.229, and so on and so forth, which network am I on? So the ones represent the network, and the zeros represent the host. Anybody? I'm going to try to get this whole thing on here. 219.214.34. So remember, the top one's in decimal, the bottom one's in binary. I just didn't convert it. So really, this is the way it lays out. Whoops. So the ones represent the network. So what network am I on? I'm on 68. Y'all see that? Because if I was to convert, actually let's do that. Let's convert 68 to binary. 68 to binary. It's 1, 3 zeros, 100. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 0, 1, 0, 0. So it's, put it down here. 0, 1, 0, 0. 0, 1, 0, 0. Okay, that is 68 in binary. Okay? And then the other numbers, I'm just not converting them all. But the 68 is my network ID. Anytime your subnet mask, which is the ones, all the ones and all the zeros there, is what tells it this is the network part, this is the host. So I am on network 68, host number 229.214.34. Everybody see that? Okay. So let's look at, well, okay, we'll come back to that in just a second. So again, the subnet mask here, the zeros is the host, the 255 is the network. With the Class B network, the first 2 digits are the network, the last 2 digits are the host. Class C networks, the first 3 digits are the network, the last 0 is the host. Okay? So considering this first 255 is the network ID, that's why I can only have 127 networks. And yes, I realize there should be more 127, but that's beyond this lecture right now. Okay. So, remember we did 2 to 1 is 0? No, 1. Hold on. 1. I can always mess that one up. So 2 to the 1 is 1. Okay? Come on. 2 to the 2 is 2. 2 to the 3 is 8. 2 to the 4 is... Wait, 2 to the 2 is 4. But my point is here, 2 to the 3 is 8. Okay? Let me go back to that slide to show you. So 2 to the 3 is 8. 2 to the 4 is 16. So if I had a network ID here, so this, remember I said this is the network, and this is the host. Okay? So how many zeros do I have? 24. Okay? So I basically have 24 zeros. All right. Now, here, I have 8. Again, there's 8 here in the middle, and there's 8 over here on the left side. Okay. So out of these 8 zeros, I'm going to show you how that works. 2, what's 2 to the 8th? Anybody? 2 to the 8th. 2 to the 5th is 32. Okay? See, 2 to the 3rd is 8. 2 to the 4th is 16. They keep doubling. So 2 to the 5th is 32. 2 to the 8th is 256. 2 to, I can't do 8, 2, well, I'll do it this way. 2 to the 8th equals 256. Okay? I can't write exponents on here. Everybody understand that? See how that works? So what that means is if I was going to take the number of all zeros, 8 zeros, I could have 256 different possible number combinations. Okay, let's look at 2 to the 3rd for a second. So 2 to the 3rd we know is 8. Agree? Let's look at all the different numbers we could possibly have. We could have 0, have 1. Actually, I'm going to put it on the same line so we can see them. We could have 1. What else could we have? What's the next one we could have? 1 0. 1 1. Remember, we can only use 3 digits. Yeah. Is that it? Is that every combination number we could have? Can you all see that? It's kind of low, sorry. That's every combination of number we could have. How many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Y'all see that? So if I said 2 squared, 2 to the 2, so we can only use 2 digits now. We could have 0, we could have a 1, 1 0, and a 1 1. Y'all agree we use every possible combinations of zeros and ones within 2 digits. So 2 to the 2 is 4. Okay? So we could do the same thing with 2 to the 8th. It would be just a lot more numbers. It would be 256 of them. Okay? So what that means is my subnet mask, if all these were ones and this was the only zeros, I could have up to 256 hosts. Okay? Let me go back to the other slide. Okay. So that's why, okay, now let's look at this one for a second. It's kind of the example I'm using right here. See here, we have all 255s and then the 0. So if I had all 255s, how many zeros do I have? How many zeros? Don't see 1.
4, 3.
Keep going. Imagine I converted all this to binary. How many zeros would I have?
8.
8. You see that? Okay? Remember, 255 is all ones. And we're working with, see, remember how we said at the beginning that an IPv4 address is a 32-bit address? So the first octet right here is 8. 8 bits. This is 8 bits. This is 8 bits. This is 8 bits. So we would have 8 zeros. Okay, and we know 8 zeros is 2 to the 8th, which would give us 256 hosts. Okay, are we all right with that? But how come the screen says 254? Broadcast, not reserved. Subnet what?
Default gateway.
Not default gateway. Subnet ID and broadcast. What a subnet ID is, okay, I live at 8412 Tree Line out in Choctaw. Okay? Do you ever get mail for everybody on your street? Whereas, no, you ever, that thing where they put in your mailbox where everybody got it? Yeah, it's not listed as 8412 Tree Line. It's like rural route, whatever recipient. It's kind of like saying Tree Line. Okay? So the subnet ID is like saying Tree Line Drive. So where do I live? I live in 8412 Tree Line Drive. My street is Tree Line Drive. My house number is 8412. Okay? Yes, no, maybe? So we have a subnet ID, which is like kind of recognizing the street. Then we have the broadcast. What a broadcast is everybody. Okay? You ever go to Walmart? Actually, they don't do it very much anymore. But in the past, they used to make a lot of announcements over the thing. White car, you left your lights on. You remember that? You used to hear? Remember Kmart, blue light special in aisle 12? Some of you are too young for that, I realize. But years ago, they used to do a lot of broadcast. Is there a problem with broadcast? Yeah, it's too much traffic. Because can you imagine if all the communications we made or that went on in Walmart were broadcast? That would be everybody screaming at everybody. So you don't want to have that. What you want to have is the individual one-on-one, which is called unicast. But we do need broadcasts for things like getting an address, getting a DHCP address. What happens is your client sends out a broadcast message, hey, I need an address. And the server responds, oh, I got one of those for you. And it gives you one. Okay? So broadcasts are necessary, but you want to keep them down as much as possible. So even though we calculated there's 8 zeros here and 256 hosts, we can't use 2 of them. They're wasted. Okay? One's the subnet ID, and one is the broadcast. Okay? We have the default gateway, but that can actually be any number in the range. It's normally the last one or the first one. So whenever you're calculating how many available hosts are there, it's always the number of zeros, 2 to the number of zeros, minus 2. It's always minus 2. Okay? So, all right. So that's why this says there's only 254 over here. Because we know there's 8 zeros. So 2 to the 8th should be 256. Well, there's only 254. Okay? Same with these other ones. They subtracted 2 from each one. Okay? You can't use the first. You can't use the last. And speaking of that, it was kind of funny because I know that. You can't use the first, can't use the last. When I got a job at the ISP, what it was, the previous owner knew how to run the ISP, and he sold it. The new owners one was a lawyer, and I don't know what the hell the other one was. It was a thief, basically. But didn't know how to run the ISP, so they hired me. They brought me in some good money, but I was only supposed to work 20 hours a week, and ended up working a lot more, and they ended up paying me for it. But we sold internet. We sold DSL, we sold dial-up, we sold T1s, we sold all kinds of internet services. Back then in 2000, they're very expensive. A T1 line costs about $1,800 a month. Okay, but you can get IP addresses from us. Okay, like now, most Visitor House probably only have one, I'm assuming. It's probably the one they give you, and it's free. Well, if you want more, you have to pay for them. Well, we sold them in blocks of 1, 2, 8, and so on. Okay? So you could buy 1 address from us, you could buy 2 addresses from us, you could buy 8 addresses from us. That's the way we sold them. And as soon as I got hired in there, I'm like, you're selling 8 IP addresses? And they're like, yeah. I said, you can't sell 8 IP addresses. me show you why. If I gave you this subnet mask of 255.255.255, I'll convert the last one into binary. What if I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Okay. Remember, the 1s are the network ID, and the 0s are the number of hosts. How many zeros do I have? 3. So what's 2 to the third? 8. But can't use the first, can't use the last. So there's only 6. So as soon as I got hired there, I'm like, we sell 8 addresses? I said, seriously, 8 usable addresses? She's like, yeah. 2 to the third is 8. I said, you can't. You can't use the first and you can't use the last. I'm like, no, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, trust me, I do. So basically, it's like, nope, we sell 8. I'm like, okay, fine. So we'll sell 8. And I was like, some person buying this from us is going to know what the heck they're doing, is going to complain that they only get 6. Because, I mean, think about it. If you were buying 8 usable addresses, you want 8 usable addresses. But you really were only getting 6. Sure enough, I was there about a month or so. This guy calls in, yeah, I'd like to buy an IP address. And, I want to buy 8. I said, oh, okay. And I gave him his subnet mask. And he's like, that's only 6. I'm like, oh, really? That's amazing. I said, I know that. I told the owners that. They just don't understand. He goes, man, they're idiots. I'm like, yeah, one's a lawyer and one literally was a thief. Basically stole all the money. And he says, well, I'm paying for 8. So I gave him 16. So, I mean, you have to go in groups of, basically you double it. So after 8, you get 16, then you can get 32 and 64. And you always have to double it. But he wanted 8. I said, I can't give you 8. It's impossible. It's kind of like saying, I live at 8412. 8412 what? You can't have that. You have to say 8412 Tree Line Drive in Choctaw. You need the rest of the address. And the subnet ID, which is the first part of the address, is that part. So we were laughing over the phone. I said, oh yeah, I told him forever, we can't sell 8. So all we had to do was change our little stupid sheet we had and say 6. Oh, no, we can sell 8. We've been selling 8 for years. I said, no, you haven't been. You've been selling 6. But it was funny. So, okay. There ain't no way we're going to finish all this. It's impossible. But okay, we're going to continue. Okay. There's some special purpose addresses. Obviously, 0s, 10s, 127s. Oh, I didn't mention 169s. 169 is called APIPA, Automatic Private IP Addressing. It's good and it's bad. It's made for stupid people. Okay, seriously, it is. That is made so you can buy a computer at Best Buy, or buy 2 of them. You have to buy 2. Buy a switch or something and connect them together and they work. Without having to configure anything. What happens is your computer sends out a broadcast, hey, I need an address. It does that for a while, for about 2 minutes, I think. And if nobody answers, it basically says, fine, I'll just pick one. And it picks one in that range. 169.254. Whatever. So if you literally bought 2 computers, plugged them together, well, with the right cable, they would both get an address automatically in 169.254. I like it for one reason, that it's great for troubleshooting. Because when I used to run a consulting business all over the city, and every now and then I get a client call me and say, man, I have no internet. I don't have any internet. What's going on? So I said, what's your IP address? So I'd walk them through how to get their IP address. They're like, 169. I'm like, oh, DHCP server's offline. And they're like, how do you know that? It's just because it didn't answer. It didn't give you an address. So I'd walk them I said, go into the back room, see a blue router, restart it. Oh, wow, you're a genius. It fixed it. But so 169 basically says they weren't getting an address. So either their cables were bad or the DHCP server was not giving an address. So it's used for troubleshooting. 172 is internal as well. 192, a lot of that, was for internal use. Your router at home is 192.168 for most of you. Anyone have an Apple router? No one? Those are 10s. Mine automatically gives out 1010. You can change all that stuff. So, but you see, we also have multicast and reserve. Those aren't used much at all anymore. But they originally gave them a class letter. But they don't do that anymore because they ran out too quickly. So now what they do is give you an IP address and a subnet mask, which we'll see more about. Okay, so we know there's some special use addresses we talked about. There's something called classless interdomain routing. Okay, let me show you how that works. Okay, this is my subnet mask I used a minute ago. Okay, how many ones are in 255? 8. Okay, so how many ones are in the second 255? 8. How about the third one? 8 again. How many ones in this last one? 5. So how many ones we got? 29? Okay. CIDR is classless interdomain routing. It's a way of specifying a network ID, subnet, everything with a slash. So basically you would just, instead of a subnet mask, I would use /29. Okay? So far so good? It's just an easy way of doing it. Supernetting allows you to combine networks. It's kind of weird. Subnetting makes our network smaller. Supernetting makes the small networks big again. It's like, well, a prime example of that is this building. Our network here is 10.50 and 10.60. Okay? Our subnet mask here at row state is 1111, 1111, 1111, 1111, all 0. That's our subnet mask here at row state. Okay? And my IP address in my office is 10.60. something, 203.5 or something like that. Okay? Cameron's address is 10.50. some number and some number. Okay? So if the ones identify the network and the zeros identify the host, are we on the same network? Do our networks match? Are we both on tree line? No, we're not. One's on 10.60, one's on 10.50. You all see that? So they're not the same network. But we had to do that because of the number of computers and the way this building was configured. So what we use is we use supernetting in this building to combine those two back together again. So that everything in this building becomes the same network. Okay, we break it apart, we put it back together, and it's weird. But that's the way it works. Okay. All right, public and private. Public we're used on the internet. Private or not. Public addresses come from ICANN. We actually ran out of them. And you actually learn, if you take forensics, you learn more about that stuff as well. But you have to register your names. And your ISP will give you your address, such so on and so forth. Okay. Private addresses are not available on the internet. Those are the 10s, the 192s, the 127s, the 172s, that kind of stuff. Okay. Now let's talk about IPv6. Okay. I realized I didn't cover a lot of... Actually, let me look here real quick. Subnetting is usually so much more, but I think it's 1503. There it is. Okay. If you search for CIT1503 on YouTube, you will see, I think it's chapter 4. Is that the one? I think it's chapter 4 is the videos you want to watch. Because I actually go into great gory detail about this. Is it chapter 4? Yeah, there's more IPv4. Yeah, assigning IP addresses. No, okay. So chapter 4 covers a little, and I think is it chapter 9 is the rest of it? Yeah, it's chapter 9. Go up on here. Actually, I'm going to copy this video. Chapter 9 will be the better video. I'm going to put the video up in our content page here. Under right here, new link. This is subnetting part 1. That was chapter 9 part 1, wasn't it? Let's go to chapter 9 part 2. Yeah, I cover it in a whole bunch more depth here. It's just that this book doesn't cover it that much. Actually, your book doesn't cover it at all, but which kind of sucks. It's kind of necessary. This is subnetting. get a chance, watch those 2 videos. Oh, I didn't make external source. I explain it in much more depth, and it will help you. Sorry, I have to make the P's match. Crazy. Alright, let me edit this. Okay. So those 2 videos are up there. That will help you. It's actually chapter 4 and chapter 9. Chapter 9 is more than anything. Okay? So go watch that. But IPv6, this is very short, then we're going to go to the other recording. We got a couple minutes. Okay. IPv6, basically we're out of addresses. IPv4 had no security. Did anyone, were you living around here when the tornado went through I-240 right where it crossed Sooner? There's that Popeye's chicken in a bank just south of the highway. Y'all know where that is? Right by the heart hospital. Remember when that bank got blown away? Okay. Well, what if we were going to build a bank? And I decided to take an old 7-Eleven and convert it to a bank. How will that work out for us, you think? How secure do you think we could make that 7-Eleven? We couldn't. There's none. So we're better off to build a bank from the ground up that's meant for security. Okay? So that bank on the corner that got blown away by the tornado, they rebuilt a bank that was secure. IPv4 is like 7-Eleven. It allowed us to communicate, but no one thought about security. Did you ever do something that wasn't, I'm going to go back and fix this later, or you named it wrong initially just to get it to work? That's what IPv4 was. Let's get this to work, and then continue to use it for the next 40 years without fixing it. That's what happened, and we couldn't fix it. IPv4 had limitations. Did anyone remember actually own a computer back when we had 640K of memory? I own one with 640K. I upgraded to a mega memory for $600. $600 for a mega memory. Okay. A little bit later on, I got a new computer. I upgraded from 8 megs to 16 megs for $600. It was always $600. I don't know why. But can you imagine paying $600 for 8 megabytes of memory? You know that smallest USB drive you can buy? That's bigger than 8 megabytes of memory. And I paid $600 for that. Okay. Way back when we first started this, no one thought we needed memory. No one thought we needed hard drive space. Does anyone here have more than a terabyte of hard drive space at home? Yeah, many of us do. Can you imagine 20 years ago having a terabyte of hard drive space? It'd probably take up this building. It would be so big. Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, things changed. And IPv4 couldn't handle it. So IPv6 gave us security, gave us automatic configuration. You can actually get an IPv6 address and keep it your entire life. Does anyone have Vonage or a voice over IP phone for your house? I had one for years. It was actually very nice because what I did was, since I had an ISP, I had a very fast connection, so I bought a voice over IP phone. Wherever I plugged it in, it worked. And this phone right here is voice over IP. If I was to go in my office right now and take my phone, plug it in right here, my office number would ring here. Because that phone's considered a specific number. Wherever that phone is, that's where it rings. With my Vonage, wherever I plug the phone in, my local number rings. The guy that sold that ISP moved to Costa Maya, Mexico. He took his Vonage with him. He plugged it in Mexico. His Oklahoma number rings in Mexico now. So he can call Oklahoma toll free because it's an Oklahoma number. So a lot of times now when you get phone calls from these long distance numbers, they're probably not long distance. It's probably someone doing something like that. Okay. But so with IPv6, you can actually get a number and keep it your entire life. I talked about it in the recording. I don't remember the address. It's like Hurricane Electric or something like that. You can actually go up and sign up and get your own IPv6 address now. They'll give you one and you can keep it forever, which is kind of nice. Supposedly in Japan, I've never been there to verify this, they actually give you an IPv6 address on your driver's license. So like mark of the beast, that's coming. All right, so addressing. IPv4 had 32-bit addressing. IPv6 has 128. Okay? All right, the structure is very different. They really don't talk about it here at all. That's what it looks like. We have a couple different types, which I'm going to talk about in the other slides. I think that's it. That should be it. And you can put them into Windows. Okay, let's go into the next set of slides. Because I learned that the slides for IPv6 suck. So I made my own. I actually made them a couple years ago. I took a bunch of stuff from a lot of different books and others. Made something that was halfway usable. So IPv4 is a 32-bit address. Remember, there was 8888, 32-bit. Okay. If every bit could be used, yet we know some of them couldn't. Remember that we already couldn't use the first and the last. You would really only have 4 billion addresses. Okay. That's if we could possibly use them all. Okay. 4 billion. Do we got more than 4 billion people in the world? We do, don't we? We got a lot. Okay. Only a fraction of those can actually be used, because some you can't. Okay, there's 6.5 billion in the Earth. So if we kept with IPv4, if we could use all the addresses, okay, we can only have 0.66 each. That's only the people. What about it? Does anyone else have any IP-enabled stuff at home? I got 6 video cameras. I got thermostats. I got all kinds of my garage doors. I can literally open my garage doors from sitting here. I can turn on the lights in the house. I can do all kinds of stuff. They're all IP enabled. I can water my yard. I got a IP enabled sprinkler system. Oh, it's sweet. I gotta show you this. It's so cool. You're gonna love it. Okay, we're gonna go GUI, .mine.new, and we're gonna go to 505. This is my house. You know what? I think zone 3, let's water for 1 minute. Okay. Don't save this. Okay. Now just a second here. Zone 3 is now watering. Zone 3 is actually this whole side of the driveway. But isn't that awesome? I can literally water the lawn from the classroom. The reason I got this was I have 130 sprinkler heads in my entire yard, 20 zones, and I'd be out here working in the back, working on one, and you know how you got to adjust them? And you're like, okay, you tell the step kid, Bethany, go into the thing, put it on zone 20, and hit start. Huh? Fine. Okay, you finally get it on zone 20. Hit start. Okay. No, it's leaking. Ever stop? I can't, and basically she can't try to stop it. Basically it sucked. So now I can do it myself. Because I've literally worked on sprinklers before, and you get it all hooked up, turn on the water, and it's squirting in the face, it's leaking everywhere. But isn't that awesome? I gotta admit, that's perfect. So that's an IP-enabled thermos.
It seems like the Buffalo Wild Wings commercial where they're doing like the sprinklers out in the football field.
We could do that. Oh, see, look, minute's up, turned off. So, all right, so basically everything can have an IP address now, okay? IPv6 uses 128 bits compared to 32 bits. Okay, 64 bits for the network and 64 bits are for the host. Okay, that is that many addresses. So basically, each person on Earth, all 6.5 billion of us, can each have 50 octillion addresses. That's for each person. Is that enough? So I could literally have an IP address on every speck of dust in my house, every blade of grass in my yard, every molecule of air, because that's a lot of stinking numbers. But that's how much IPv6. You think that's a little overkill? It's close. I might need 49 octillion. But when I heard octillion, I'm like, what the heck's an octillion? That's how big an octillion is. So that's what IPv6 gives us. All right, IPv6 uses 8 groups of 4 hexadecimal digits. Okay, they're separated by colons. So if that's true, then how come that bottom number works? I don't know if you guys can even see over here. Can you see that? So if it's 8 groups separated by colons, then how is that bottom one even valid? It's only two groups. Do y'all agree with that? They meant it so you could write it easier. If you put two colons together, see that at the bottom, if you put two colons together, it basically means all the rest of the groups are 0. So rather than writing these 3 colons here, I could have just put, 3 zeros, I'm sorry, I could have just put 2 colons and made it shorter. They're giving us an easier way to write it. Okay? All right, some rules. All leading zeros can be dropped. So if I was to give you $1, that's $1. What if I gave you $1? How much is that? Or how about $1? It's still 1. Okay. Point is, you can drop leading zeros. Okay. 2 or more groups of zeros can be replaced by colons, hence this example here. So I could ask, all zeros can be replaced by just 2 colons, so on and so forth. See, aren't these much better? They actually explain it a little bit. So, yeah, I made these. Okay, now let's talk about headers. Okay, IPv4 had a lot of extra stuff. You notice that? Had a header checksum. And then it had an entire packet checksum. Do you really need 2? What if you just check the entire packet? Why check it twice? Okay. They had header link, they had type of service, they had flags, offsets, checksums, so on and so forth. Okay. The address has been expanded. The total length has been changed. The TTL was considered hop count. TTL stands for time to live, which is basically the hop count. So they changed a few things there. Okay. Why remove it? It says the header contains the header contains TTL, which changes with every hop. What that means is, when a packet, say we're going to send a packet to Google. Okay. Let's go to here. We're going to trace route. It's actually not going to go to California, but this is actually going to go from here all the way to Google. Okay. It's going to go to our gateway. Then it's going to be Rose State's gateway, which probably won't. Okay, it did respond. Okay. Then it's going to continue on until it gets to Google. What this means is how many hops is it going to take to get to Google? Obviously, we're up to 4 already, so it's going to take a few. Every time the packet goes through a router, the hop count is reduced. Because it starts off at, we'll say 180. Goes through a router. Actually, I think it starts off at 64. Starts off at 64. Goes through the first router. Now it's 63. Have to recalculate the checksum. Goes through the next router. Now it's 62. Have to recalculate the checksum. So it's a lot of recalculation going on. It says requires the checksum to be recalculated after every hop. This is done the IP layer anyway, so why do it there as well? We already did the entire packets checksum. So what we're doing was we're updating the header checksum every hop and the entire packet checksum every hop. So we're doing twice the work. Okay, so it speeds it up. Okay, addressing. We have a couple different types. You can have link local, unique local, global addresses, multicast, and special addresses. That's what they look like. Okay. All right. Let's talk about link local first. Internal networks only. Okay. I don't know. Do we have one on here? Okay. IP config / all. All right. Yes, we do. We actually have IPv6 addresses on this machine. Okay. So let's start at the top here. Wow. Too much stuff. CLS. Okay. Okay, now we go at the top and just see what we got here. Okay. There's our IPv4 information. Here's our IPv6. There's our link local IPv6 address. It's right there in the middle. Okay. So it can communicate with hosts on the same network. It's internal communications only. Can't be routed between networks. Cannot be routed on the internet. It's internal to us only, which is great. So if I want to talk to just you guys in here, I can use that and talk directly to you. I don't have to worry about the broadcast going anywhere. I don't have to worry about bothering anybody. It's going to be just for us. Okay. All interfaces have one. Says the first 10 bits are always this. If you were to look at the first 10 bits, that's what they look like. The next 64 bits are always 0. Hence I said, remember, 64 for the first part anyway. So the CRDR notation, that's what it looks like. So how did I possibly get from this right here down to this? Well, all ones in hex is actually an F. I will show you that. If I took this calculator in binary, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I converted it to hex, I get an F. We haven't covered hex yet. I want to cover it today. We're not going to have time. That's okay. So, this converts to F. This converts to E. Okay, and that ends up being 80, which we'll see on the next slide, Y. Okay, and I'm showing you some examples. We'll see what those are in the next slide. Okay, so there's FE8 and 0. That's how that converts. This address there, the first bits, converts to FE80. %12 is distinguished among networks. You can actually present 11, present 12%, whatever you want in there. Just a numerical zone ID is all it is. Okay. Unique local. Use internal networks. Can be routed between internal. So now maybe it can work between the business building and the social science building, but can't get out to the internet. So maybe Rose State wants to use that for voice over IP phones. They want this phone to work anywhere on campus, just not outside of campus. So they could actually assign an IPv6 address, a unique local address, so the phone can work in the campus but not outside. Okay. First 8 bits are that. The next 40 are representing global ID, which does vary based on your site. You would have to figure out what that is. Then we have the last 16, the subnet ID, and then the CRDR notation again. That's how we get FD00. So you'll see all the ones become FD00. Okay, global addresses. These work on the internet. The first 3 are always 001. Okay, we have a network prefix, which we'll understand what the heck that means here in just a second. Next 45 bits are global. See, this is what gets me. When I found some of this information online, they weren't explaining some of this. I'm like, huh? That's why I put it in red and answer it on the next slide. So why is there a CRDR notation that way? So if we have 001, it's actually missing a 4th digit. So if we were to put a 0 in there, we'd end up with a 2. If we end up put a 1 in there, we end up with a 3. Everybody see that? So that's how come, even though they say it starts with 001, to complete the 4-bit section, you either have to put a 0 or 1 in there, and that's why we get 2 or 3. Okay? Multicasts are used for multicast. What multicast is, I didn't explain it earlier. That's kind of like when we push images. We talked about that last class period. I can send it out one time to all of you. It's kind of like, you all answering. That's what multicast is. Again, the numbers change there a little bit. There I explained how those are done. We're about out of time. We have special addresses. We have mappings for it. We have 6 to 4. In other words, IPv6 to IPv4 addresses. We have Torito, which we'll see in a second. We have multicast. We just have a bunch of different ones, and here's some examples of them. Okay. Usages. We can tunnel over it. You can do router to router, host to router, host to host. You can get, like I said, an IPv6 address for yourself. It's like Horizon Electric or something like that. You can register and get one. There's ISATAP. That's what it looks like. Okay. It's an intra-site automatic tunneling addressing protocol. Whew. It's kind of like that automatic IP addressing we talked about earlier. Okay. It's a way of transmitting between the two, or getting between the two. Okay. And remember the colons, we can get rid of all the zeros. Now this part here, this 192.02.143. How the heck did I get that? How does 192.02.43 convert to this right here, this C0, this part right here? Because you notice, this top part, y'all agree? From the F all the way to the E here is right here. Y'all agree with that? Because remember, I said 2 colons to get rid of all the zeros. So FE80 all the way to 5EFE can be converted to this is one section right here. The 192.02.143 can be converted to C00028F because 192 is actually C0. 0 is 0, 2 is 2, and 143 is 8F. Okay. If you want to be sure of that, I will show you 143. I know some of you like, huh? 143, converted to hex, it actually becomes 8F. There. So it is there. Okay. You can use. It was funny because I saw an article a few months ago where someone says, "Oh, the entire internet is changing. We're switching to IPv6," which is true. Nothing will work. You must replace all of your equipment. And what in the hell? It's 100% backwards compatible. So I was like, seriously? Who wrote? It was from a news channel. I'm like, you're a bunch of idiots. It was funny because I wrote my comment in there. Then I started reading some of the other comments people put, and it was the same thing. Where the hell did you get this? And this is like the stupidest article I've ever seen in my life. You ever see those things where if you know a little bit, and then, or you know something, then other people think they know everything, and they're idiots. Okay. But what ends up happening here, we can encapsulate IPv6 packets inside of v4 or vice versa. So we can use IPv6 on your existing IPv4 networks. Okay. So it actually puts one inside the other. Okay. All right. There's Teredo addresses. Okay. Allows IPv6 hosts to communicate over IPv4 networks. They use NAT, network address translation. You sure heard of that before. I do talk about it a little bit on another recording. Okay. Works with NAT that supports UDP. Hopefully you know what UDP is. We don't have time to go into it. Now for the real... That's spelled wrong. Oh well. Okay. What Teredo is? A platform-independent tunneling protocol developed by Microsoft. It provides IPv6 connectivity to nodes that are located behind your NAT devices. Okay. Not critical, you know that. But there's where the RFC is. If you've never seen what an RFC is, it stands for request for comment. Whenever you want to implement something on the internet, you make an RFC, which is a request for comment. People make comments on it. And then when they're happy with it, they implement the standard. Like the current wireless standard is 802.11 AC. Anyone got an AC device yet? It's gigabit traffic over wireless. So I got one. It's fast. You're not going to get gigabit speed. You're actually only going to get half of that. But darn, half of gigabit speed is still a hell of a lot better than 10 meg or something like that. If you want to know why, I'll tell you later why you're only getting half, but that's another story. Okay, we're out of time here. I have a third presentation, which I'm not going to be able to give to you right now. It's real short. It's like 14 slides. I walk you through how to convert numbers. Okay? I tell you how to convert one number to the next. Okay? All right, why was that one not the same? Oh, because I took the zero off the end. They're not the same. Okay. I tell you how decimal works. I tell you how this is what we've been doing since we were kids. I tell you how binary works. That's basically what we did earlier. There's a recording of this up there. I will try to find it and put it up there so you can see the whole. It's an hour-long recording, I think. Maybe not an hour long, but then I talk about octal. You know how in decimal we use 0 to 9? Binary we use 0 to 1? Octal we use 0 to 7. So a little bit different. Okay, there's how to convert octal to decimal. And hex we use 0 to F. Because we have 16 addresses. Okay, so they go 0 to 9, then A through F. So that's why that whole FFF thing. But I'll find the link for the other recording and put it up there, and you should be able to see this. But it's not very difficult to figure out, and your calculator does it for you anyway. I'm totally fine with using the calculator on this. I put it on the test, you'll be able to use the calculator on test. That's not a problem. I'm just trying to show you how it works so you get an idea of how this stuff works. Okay? Homework is this. Just put the answers up in the quizzes area. Okay? If you type in, let's do 199 real quick. So if I typed decimal 199, then I want to find out what the binary value is. I would click binary, and there it is. Then I would click hex, and there it is. Then I would click octal, and there it is. It's not hard. I realize you can use a calculator. But just the presentation, I do walk through how it's done if you want to calculate it yourself. Because I like to know how this stuff works. They're all three of, there's an IPv4, IPv6, and this number conversion. It's all under quizzes. They are not timed. But you need to save your answers. And work on it for a while. Say you went into this number conversion one. Just start it and go in there and do some. Just keep hitting save. Come on. You'll see. There's the number one. It's the same exact chart. 118, convert it to binary, and so on and so forth. Just hit save after you do each one. and go back into it. It's going to say you're over time. I think it's set to 2 hours. It's the maximum I can put in there. But it's going to say you're late by 6 days. I don't care. That's fine. Just keep saving it. When you're all done with it, go to the bottom and hit submit.
What are we going to be doing in IPv6?
I'd like you to do it now. It's up there. I did talk. I'll find the full recordings I made of those. I just didn't have time to cover them all tonight. Okay. So it's not that difficult, actually. It's only, I think, 6 questions. Yeah, it's 6 questions. Convert this. So if you walk through the slides, you'll be able to get the answers. They're not difficult. Yeah, that's all there is. Okay. Give me an example of this. Remember at the very beginning of the slides, this is link local looks like this. Then just put one in. So look through these. If you can't figure it out, let me know. But I will find the full recordings and put them up there. So if you want to watch me explain IPv6 in a little bit better quality without rushing, it'll be up there. Okay? But they're all there. I'm giving you to the week after fall break, so you got 2 full weeks to do it. Sound good? All right. Any questions? Let me know. I'm going to stop this recording if I can find it.